Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about fragrances that blew me away. Whether because I thought they were going to be complete and utter trash, and then they turned out to actually be good, or just because they were fragrances that when I got them in, they met my expectations or even exceeded them, even though the bar was already set really high. Hey friends, Ash here with gentsscents. Hope you're doing really well. Today, 7 fragrances that blew me away. Cheap ones, expensive ones, all of the above. Let's jump into it. I'm gonna start things off with a cheap fragrance that I found at, I think it was TJ Maxx. Might have been Ross, but I think TJ Maxx. The reason this one blew me away is because my remembrance of the fragrance was that it wasn't really all that good. I tried it years ago. I feel like maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that, in his store, admittedly, just on a tester strip, but my memory was that I didn't like it a whole lot. And online, if you go on to Fragrantica, Perfumo, all those websites, this one gets a lot of hate, a whole lot of hate. So imagine my surprise when I picked it up at TJ Maxx, brought it home, smelled it, and really liked it a lot. It's Lacoste Live. Yeah, this one at this point is almost like a long lost forgotten fragrance from Lacoste. Nowadays, pretty much everything Lacoste is L1212 or maybe Match Point, one of their newer releases. Lacoste Live though, don't really see talked about at all. The note breakdown is a little strange. There's lime, there's licorice, there's gaiac wood, there are green notes, and there are aquatic notes. So you see that note breakdown and you think, okay, so it's just gonna be a generic, sporty fragrance with a strange licorice thrown in. That doesn't actually sound good at all. Then you smell it and it has this sweetness to it. It smells like spices are in here as well, though there are no official spice notes that I'm aware of. And it actually smells really solid. So this was one of those times where I was blown away because I was completely sure that it was going to suck, or at the best be horrifically mediocre. And then I sprayed it on and I can still remember just thinking to myself, no, you're wrong. You don't like that. No, you don't like it. Stop liking that. And then as it dried down and I sprayed it on and wore it a second time, I just came to the realization that I liked it. It is what it is. I dig it. I do not care what people online say. I like this. As an inexpensive fragrance, I think it is solid. And I'll also link each one of these fragrances in the description below. Next up, a fragrance that did exceed my expectations, even though my expectations were sky high. Overture by Amouage. Overture Man, I should say. Cognac, sandalwood, smoke, and spice. Yeah, that sounds good. Those are some of the notes in this fragrance, and it is fantastic. There's also myrrh in here, shouldn't leave that out. Gives a really nice resinous sweetness to the fragrance. A little bit of booziness, smokiness all the way throughout. A little bit of myrrh in here as well, can't leave that out. Gives a nice resinous sweetness, and that cognac gives a nice booziness as well. The smokiness lasts throughout. This is exquisite stuff. Dare I say, opulent. Amouage is really well known for having made some of the better fall and wintertime fragrances in the niche realm, and this one is right up there toward the top of their entire offering. That is legitimately one of the best boozy style resinous fragrances I have ever smelled. Oh yeah, and the performance is really good too, so that's nice. Next up, we've got a Hugo Boss. It is the scent Private Accord. Now, this one is one of those times that it exceeded my expectations. I've always had an interest, we'll say, in the scent line from Hugo Boss. The original The Scent I thought was pretty nice. Didn't blow me away, but I enjoyed that it was a little bit different. With the Meninka, at least they weren't just trying to copy somebody else. They were kind of doing their own thing. Then the Scent Intense came out, and that was better than the original The Scent, but still not really something that I got excited about. I was like, oh, it's better, you know, moving in the right direction, so that's good. And then this came out. When I smelled it, I was like, Yes, that works for me. It clicked. Cacao, vanilla, maninka, and coffee are some of the notes in this fragrance, and this one for me is still the best in the entire line. And it is way better than that steaming dumpster fire, the Scent Pure Accord. You know what that tells me? Keep your accords private, not pure. This one though, do buy. Yes, this is killer in the fall and winter, fantastic in the evening. It's got a good amount of refinement to it, but at the same time, it's very mass appealing. That maninka note that's used in the entire The Scent line is potentially a little bit divisive because you don't really smell it in anything else other than these fragrances. It does have a sort of dustiness to it. Yes, there's, you know, a fruity sweetness to it, but it's not the same as grapefruit or green apple or something like that. And that's what sets this one apart from the fragrances that came before it. That maninka is counterbalanced with the coffee and the chocolate, and it just elevates the whole thing. So that one blew me away because when I smelled it, it was like suddenly the line made sense to me, and that one is right at the top. Oh yeah, this next one's good. Tom Ford Tobacco Veneer. Yeah, this is a modern classic right here. Now this fragrance I wanted for a long time, kind of lusted after it, you know. I wanted that whole private blend line, everything. I wanted it all. And I don't have anywhere near me that carries Tom Ford. So what I did, and this was years and years and years back, I got in touch with a Tom Ford fragrance counter at one of the major department stores in the US, and I had them send me little 4 milliliter tiny Tom Ford bottles. I'm assuming that they still do this. I haven't checked in a long time, but they were little 4 ml bottles, and they came in like a tiny Tom Ford box where they would decant the fragrance for you and put it into just a screw top bottle, no atomizer or anything, and they would send it on to you. So that is where I very first smelled Tobacco Veneer. I actually took it from that little 4 ml bottle that they sent, moved it into a little decant spray bottle, sprayed it on, and I was just, it's got tobacco, vanilla, spice, and dried fruit. And yes, in the years since this, lots of fragrances have come out in this style. Some of them close to Tobacco Veneer, some not all that close, maybe just slightly inspired by it in some way, form, or fashion. But when this first came out, man, it was awesome. And it still is awesome. I still love it. Fantastic. Always have a bottle. If you want a sweet, spiced pipe tobacco fragrance with a big helping of vanilla, you have got to check this out at some point. And also, women and men can both pull this off. Completely unisex. This next fragrance is one that I was sure was gonna suck. I knew it. I knew it was gonna be trash, and then I liked it. It is Yop Homme Ice. Plum, sandalwood, orange blossom, bergamot, some of the notes in the fragrance. So why did I think this was gonna suck? First off, the price. Under 20 bucks when I bought it. That is usually not good territory to be in. If you're buying a fragrance under $20, unless it's a known commodity, you know, something that lots of people have bought and they vouched for it. If it's not a known commodity, it's probably gonna be terrible. Because a lot of times those sub $20 fragrances, people will just throw them into their cart, you know, just to reach free shipping or just on a whim. And if somebody finds a really good one, usually they're gonna say, hey, I found this amazing deal, you gotta check it out. And then more people are gonna talk about it, and so it goes. But I hadn't heard very much about this one, so I was pretty sure it was gonna be terrible. And then also, the house. Now, the original Yop Homme is definitely a classic at this point. Classic fragrance. I hate it. Absolutely hate it. It smells like cough syrup to me. It is overly synthetically syrupy sweet. I just can't stand it. And up to this point, I had a couple fragrances from the house that I thought were not too bad, you know, pretty solid, but they were in different lines from the Yop Homme line. So I was sure that it was gonna suck. Then it came in, and it was good. Presentation is nice, atomizer is nice, fragrance is nice. Wow. Sub $20, this is close to, maybe not right at the pinnacle, but close to as good as you're ever gonna get. And I do say this every time, but the one thing I'll say about the fragrance that doesn't match is the name and the presentation. It's Yop Om Ice. It's in this ice blue bottle. You're expecting super fresh, you know, summertime high heat situations kind of fragrance. It's not that. There is freshness to it. Yeah, there's a little bit of sweetness in here as well, but it's not really the type of scent that you're gonna spray on really heavily and go out into 95-degree Fahrenheit weather. It is great for spring and fall. Good daytime fragrance, good nighttime fragrance, good potential compliment puller as well. Very good, and blew my mind because it didn't suck and was good. Ooh, this next one is one that I like a lot, but I know some people don't. It's Enchanted Forest by the Vagabond Prince. And this bottle is so cool. I love it. This has black currant, balsam fir, it has cedar, it has red wine as one of the notes. And like you would expect, this is a woodsy fragrance. But it's maybe not as dark as you might think looking at the bottle. This one is a sweet, very green forest fragrance. And it does have actually a couple different boozy notes in there, which adds further into the sweetness of the scent. Admittedly, this is not a fragrance that you would wear all over the place. It's not an ultra versatile fragrance, but in terms of just the scent itself, this captured my attention as soon as I sprayed it on. This is a lot of everything that I love in a fragrance. The presentation, the backstory, the composition itself. I love it. Now this last one is kind of a twofer, and it'll make sense when I show you. Philip Klein, No Limits. Philip Klein. And Gucci Guilty Absolute, both of these. And both for the same reason, and yeah, there's actually a lot that connects these. So, Gucci Guilty Absolute. A lot of the Gucci Guilty fragrances are not really all that unique. Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. They're not all that unique. They are made for mass appeal, they're made for compliments, and they do that really well. So that's cool. I'm not taking any shots at Gucci Guilty for doing that and doing it well. I was not expecting this. This has leather, cypress, vetiver, and patchouli as some of the notes in the fragrance. The opening is a little bit medicinal. Some people say it reminds them of Band-Aids. Now I know that's not really a ringing endorsement for a fragrance to wear anywhere, anytime, and you know, pull compliments, bro. It smells like Band-Aids, man. Chicks love it. No, that's not what this is. This fragrance is Gucci kind of stepping out of their comfort zone, doing something different, something challenging, something new. And so when it came out, I was like, what? Gucci did this? Even smelling it now, it's almost like you just smell it and go, Gucci, you became a man. Wow. The leather in here is still awesome. Man, it smells good. I almost forget how good it is until you go back and smell it again. That being said, a lot of people hate this. So I think I'm actually in the minority in terms of liking it. A lot of people don't. And that leads me to Philip Klein, No Limits. If you haven't seen it, I've talked about it before. After this video's over, just go watch the Philip Klein No Limits commercial, the advertisement. Go do it. It's got leather, it's got dark chocolate, wood, spices. Once you watch that advertisement, if you haven't, you'll understand why I thought this was gonna be so bad. So very bad. Because when you see that, and that's their chosen advertising that they paid money for to pimp their fragrance, you gotta think, yeah, that's probably not very good. And then I sprayed it on and I like it. I was so sure No Limits was going to be terrible. I would have wagered every penny I've ever made in my life that it was going to be just a nightmare of a fragrance, just a synthetic bomb of death. And then I smelled it. So here's the deal with No Limits. It's made by Alberto Marias, as is Gucci Guilty Absolute. Now these don't smell the exact same, but they do have similarities. Close enough that if you smell this one and then smell this one, you'll be like, yeah, I can pick out some things there that are a little bit alike. Most obviously, probably the leather accord used in both the fragrances. And so with this one, you had Gucci making something completely out of left field, which frankly I loved and have grown to love much more than when I first smelled it. And then you had Philip Klein making definitely one of the cringiest fragrances of all time. And then it's actually pretty good and pretty wearable. So both of these, they're kind of intertwined with each other in my mind, and they both blew me away just for different reasons. Didn't expect this whatsoever, and also didn't expect this whatsoever. So there we go, 7 fragrances that blew me away for one reason or another. All right guys, that's gonna do it for me. As always, thanks for hanging out with me today. Go watch that Philip Klein ad. It'll change your life. Stay safe out there. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video.